Welcome to the Go Time Podcast. Go Time Podcast with your host, Todd Martin.
We've got Dale Brisby on our podcast today, the Go Time Podcast. So, Dale, can you give us a little bit of a background on, I guess probably the biggest one would be like what got you into rodeo from the beginning? Like what made Dale Brisby?
Oh, well, I've kind of always had an attraction to adrenaline type activities, specifically, being born in the Western world, that's, ended up being bull riding and bronc riding and, training colts and my old man who managed a ranch. And we grew up ranching. And so I think if I'd have been born, outside of Denver, Colorado somewhere, I probably would have tried to be a professional snowboarder. If I'd have been born down in Florida, I'd have probably been a skier. So anyway, I just kind of attracted to the rodeo way of life, the freedom that comes along with it, and found out quickly I was the greatest at it. So I went all in.
So did your dad play a big role in that? Like getting started with like going that direction? Was it more because you were following along the lines of like what your dad did, or was it a bit more of there was more of a draw to it than just what he was doing?
That's a good question. I've not really thought of them as separate things, just because I think that when you're rodeoing, much like I'm sure anything in life, be it football or race car driving, you always hit a roadblock, or, you have or some people do. Dale Brisby never does. But when those things hypothetically came into my life, my old man was a very significant inspiration for me. And knowing that he had been through similar struggles, he was able to walk me through that. He was able to encourage me, and he was able to, shine light on the path ahead, which just proved to be really big for where I was going and where I am going. It really helped paint a vision of what life as a rodeo cowboy was like. So I got to watch him endure that. I got to watch him do that. They were one and the same. Rodeo and my old man, in my mind, were the same thing. So I've not really ever thought of them as separate things now that you mention it.
I guess the reason why I ask,
I don't know that I was built to be. There were times in my life where, especially never really with bulls, but with bucking horses, there were times in my life where I felt like borderline terrified, and it made me want to go after it further and harder. It made me want to do it. And having watched my old man compete and do those things, and I think there was probably times where he was scared. It was I just wouldn't take no for an answer. And so I think had I not been raised with a rodeo background, just my personality type, I probably would have picked something different if it weren't for my old man. Maybe I'm not saying different than rodeo, but different than, I probably would have just ridden bulls maybe, but I don't know that I would have rode bucking horses, which I would have done a disservice to myself because I love it.
That's great. I made the attempt when I was in high school. I got on two bulls, and then we went down to, this was like forever ago, but went and got on two bareback horses down in Robstown. And it took me 2 times to realize that I didn't want to get, for one, by the second one, I didn't have any pants to wear for any more.
Yeah.
They about got ripped off of me. And I don't think my arm could stay attached to my body much longer if I was going to do it much longer and at least the way that I was doing it. And I figured I'd try and write something that was a little more broke, or at least trying to figure out how to write something that was more broke. But I guess the reason why I asked that is that, so I didn't come from that kind of background. I came from, my dad was a computer repairman and my mom was a bookkeeper. And I was raised around agriculture and all the other ag kids, and it's all I wanted to do. And my dad was real supportive in doing it and stuff, but I kind of had to keep knocking on that door because it just wasn't as readily available. And I guess that's what I really enjoyed about the TV show that you did, the How to Be a Cowboy on Netflix, and that I guess I should introduce my sidekick that is here with me.
Hey, how are you?
Hi.
Good to meet you. What did you say your name was?
Daphne.
Well, it's good to meet you, Daphne.
Me too.
Daphne did have, I guess before we go too far, she had a couple questions that she wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay. Why do you always wear sunglasses?
I'm a man of mystery and I got something to hide.
That's pretty good. Pretty good answer. What was the other one?
How old is Boone?
Boone will be 22 in a couple of months. Yep. He's an old man in horse years. So, but just old enough to buy himself a drink.
Dabney's horse, how old is Hobo? She's 20 something. I think we stopped counting after 20.
Yeah. No, he's been a good one. He's going to be really hard to replace. I'm working on a colt right now. He'll be in an upcoming video. His name's Birdman, and Birdman, he's pretty gentle. So he's got potential to be a Boone replacement. I don't know that he'll ever be a Boone though.
Cool.
So,
all right. Well, she wanted to ask that, and then she was gonna head on.
You bet. Well, it's good to meet you, Daphne.
Michelle.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
So I guess like the thing that I found the most intriguing about your show are the particularly Netflix part. The other stuff, I love the comedy and I love all that kind of stuff, and the humor that's all around rodeo. But something that I find really intriguing and something that I think is missing in a lot of stuff is the men that are in the agriculture industry, or in whether it's rodeo, horses, or just in rural like type of jobs or whatever, agriculture. So many of us actually had active men in our lives kind of growing up, and that would, that invest in this, whether it was hard or pushing or joking and laughing or whatever. But there was a lot of that like guidance. And I see that it done in a really cool way with like the kids that you have around you and stuff like Donnie and some of those that I see that you're kind of putting time into them. And I think that if that hadn't have been done with me, with other older gentlemen that were willing to teach me and willing to take me in, because I was just a kid that I had no idea. I took my first riding lesson when I was 21, and I made a career out of training horses.
Well, yes, sir, 100%. I've always known that there was an extreme value in wise counsel. Even now as a businessman, I've got people that I call on daily. And there's different things in my life, areas of my life where I've got individuals who help me. I've got 2 or 3 friends where since my dad has passed, if it's rodeo or ranching related, I'm going to call on these 2 or 3 friends. A couple of them manage ranches and just are, have a sound mind when it comes to giving advice. And they know me, and so they've got the context. When it comes to business, I've got 2 other individuals. Since my granddad, who is an entrepreneur, he passed, I usually wouldn't tip a waitress without calling him. But I've got 2 friends that are business savvy, and they know me, so they've got context. When it comes to personal motivation, I've got a couple of people that I'll text or call and just seek guidance there. When it comes to my spiritual walk, it's my preacher. But I've got a list of 8, 9, 10, 12 people that some of them I call on a couple times a week, 3 times a week. Others I'll call on once a month or every quarter. And there's not necessarily a rhyme or a reason, but outside of prayer and heavy Bible study, I'm constantly seeking wise counsel when it comes to running my business, interacting with my family, with my coworkers, meaning my employees. So I've always valued that. As a rodeo cowboy, as a businessman, as a man, as a Christian, I think that it's important to keep people around you who you emulate, who you'd like to emulate. And they say your top 5 friends, that's who you become. And I believe that. But I also don't mind, or your top 5 friends, you're going to have the average of their income, and I don't put much weight into that. My old man died with $800 in his account and we split it 4 ways, and I wouldn't trade that for any amount of money. The kind of man he was, I wouldn't trade that for any kind of money. So when I say all these things, I don't think, and you have to, as a rodeo cowboy, not look at success through the lens of money. Matter of fact, the only reason that a lot of rodeo cowboys look at money at all is because that's how they keep score at a PRCA. I've got buddies of mine that they wouldn't care about money. That you could go by just points, and that they would care less about money, but they just love that lifestyle. So anyway, it comes full circle. In my intern program, it's happened naturally over the years. The very first intern that I had on video, his name was Dean Sutton, and it was 5-6 years ago. But he wasn't really the first intern, meaning like a young man who wanted to learn how to rodeo, who I brought into my life and helped mentor him. He was probably more like the 7th, 8th, or 9th intern. And we've had dozens since then. Right now, under my employ, we've got 9 interns. But even before How to Be a Cowboy, the idea of How to Be a Cowboy, the idea of the show plot came from me talking to this production company. And I said, hey, I'm getting dozens, sometimes 50, 75 messages a day on how do I get started ranching? How do I get started rodeoing? And I said, let's give these, let's tell these people how to do that. And so through those questions, I would get people wanting to intern for me. And so the system I've got here where they can come in, they can work at the warehouse, and then I'll mentor them in how to ride a horse, how to ranch, how to rodeo, ride bulls. It's very niche, very specific, but there's not a lot of places where they can come do this. And the reason I'm so familiar with how valuable that is as an opportunity for someone is because I've been in their shoes. There's not a lot of practice pens in Texas where you can go get on bareback, saddle bronc, bull riding, or bullfighting. There's not a lot there's definitely not a lot outside of Texas. And so if you could go and live at that place, practice multiple times a week, also work there, have the freedom to go rodeo, not be scared if you come in the next day and you're on crutches, you not be scared that you're going to get fired. That's a rarity, and I think that what we have here is a tremendous opportunity for a young person if they're trying to rodeo. And so essentially it's a neat thing. And it was fun to highlight it on How to Be a Cowboy. And I think that the future of our industry depends on those kind of situations where people can learn this trade.
It isn't. I'm curious if you see it the same way, but isn't that what you're doing? Is essentially discipleship?
100%. Yeah. Most of my discipleship is most of my ministry, so to speak, is one-on-one. I'll post a scripture. I post a Billy Graham video. We'll make some mentions of stuff in videos, sure, along the way. And if people follow me closely, they'll find out pretty quickly that I'm a Christian. And then they start to recognize that there's not a lot of profanity or alcohol or, just vulgarness within our videos. Not that I think that if that exists, a person can't also be a Christian, but when we're trying to be a light in a dark world, we want to be the best example of a Christian that we can.
Right.
And but however, as much as we try to do that in our content, most of our ministry is one-on-one.
My dad used to tell me that the best sermons that he ever saw were the ones that were never spoken.
Yes, sir.
It's kind of, I think when the way that you conduct yourself and the way that you do, and the things that you're doing, if anything, you're being more of a, it's almost a broader sense of discipleship. I think, that in our example did the exact same thing too. I mean, he had his tight group that he, did one-on-one with and did most of his life with, but he also at the same time, had a broad scope a broad brush that he painted out there too, and drew others in also. But even his disciples were the ones that were, they were being representatives of him, not perfect. And thank goodness for that we don't have to do that, but that, that your life should be a representative of it. Not even, I mean, it's not that your life's got to be perfect, but more that your life should be a reflection of somebody who has a desire to try, more than anything else.
Yeah, sir. We have a weekly Bible study, and this morning we read in chapter 2 of Philippians, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. And I think that we talk about this analogy a lot. It's one my preacher has used, but it's kind of like if you show up to Texas A&M to go to school and you show up to your orientation, you're about to be a freshman, hadn't even started classes yet. And at orientation, they hand you your diploma. And they say, all right, you're graduated. You've got your diploma. Here it is. Put it in a plaque, hang it on the wall. But over the next 4 years, you need to still go to your classes and learn this stuff. And that's how our salvation is. Once we believe in Christ and we receive him, our name is secured in that Lamb's Book of Life. And then we're called to be obedient to this word thereafter. But the salvation itself is a gift. Salvation is, and a gift is something you don't earn. A wage is something you earn. So we were given a gift in salvation. It's not a wage that we have to earn and then we're given it. And so I think it's important to work out our salvation and to be a light in a dark world. But that is so that people can see that love, see that it's definitely not from us, because humans, fail all the time, and then wonder about it, ask us about it. But you're right. I think that definitely it's something that is way more impactful when people can watch it lived out, and I've got friends that I feel like I have a ministry with that it has taken years to make an impact, decade to make an impact. And part of that is just they're not ready, or they weren't ready, and now they're getting that way. And so that's all in God's timing. I don't have control over that, but I do have control over me. So
yeah, it's I'm curious what you think is the draw to a lot of the young kids that are wanting to know what's the draw that makes them want this lifestyle, or want this, not rodeo, but not just rodeo, agriculture and the animals and the interaction and all that comes along with it. I loved training horses. I love going and competing on horses and stuff. But the thing that I love about it is kind of the atmosphere around it. The people that I'm running around with, the fun that we have, and the humor, but the love and everything else that comes along with it. But learning how to do life with all the people that I do life with on those deals are really a blast. But I just wonder what you see in the young people, the young kids that are coming, wanting that life. What do you see as the draw to them?
Well, Chris Ledoux has a song that you just can't see them from the road. And I think that that's what, and the whole purpose of that song was he was saying that people think there's not cowboys anymore, but Chris was saying there are cowboys. You just can't see us from the road. Well, now with Snapchat and Dale Brisby putting out videos and other people starting to post pictures, and, you can see us from the road. And there's always been an intrigue with, the cowboy, and, people all over the country. I mean, all around the world are familiar with Texas, and they think that everyone in Texas wears a cowboy hat and rides a horse to school. Well, that might be the extent of what they know. They may see a funny commercial that involves a cow and a horse. Maybe they watch part of a Western, but essentially, people's knowledge of the Western industry is very limited. Well, now with the internet, it's becoming something that they're able to research a little more, and they'll follow somebody like a Dale Brisby and watch maybe How to Be a Cowboy, Yellowstone, etc. And I think it'll pique their interest, and that's why. Sorry, I've got food in my mouth. So that's why I think that the industry has growth ahead. I believe personally, from my experience down in the weeds, and I think there's a number of things that will draw people to that. Number one, if you were sitting in for instance, a buddy of mine, one guy that's reached out to want to be an intern, he's downtown Chicago, and he was a model, but he had like a granddad's brother or something that was a cowboy and rode bulls. And so he's just super intrigued. Well, without the internet, like he just would have no idea living in Chicago, Illinois. And now all of a sudden he's interested, wants to be an intern. We've talked about it. I don't know if he's really that serious, but the point is like, he wants to just chase that lifestyle because he's tired of the one he's in, and he sees a lifestyle that has integrity to it. It's got a sense of morals. There's a code, and then there's also some excitement and adventure when you think about rodeo. Whether you're talking about a roping event or something with a little more adrenaline to it, and the rough stock into the arena. With the ranching side of things, it's become cool to be cowboy. It's become cool to be on a horse. People will go to a friend's house who has a horse just so they can take a picture of those horses' ears and say something about like, so glad this is my office Monday morning, or whatever kind of caption. Like just those horse ears in a picture are a thing now. It's a trend. And I love it. I love every aspect of it, because some of those people, they may come over here, posers or not, they're going to become a fan of the industry. And in the future, they're going to have families. They're going to buy the clothes. They're going to attend the rodeos. They're going to watch the videos. They're going to spend money in the industry, and it's going to just further our cause. So I'm not sure what all reasons people would, when it comes to rodeo, you kind of have to do it to realize why people do it, because you can't really speak to the camaraderie that comes along with it. Like just the chills that go up my spine when I walk up and set my rigging bag down and you smell that fresh arena dirt, that inside like there's just nothing like it. And so on that side of things, I think it's just pure curiosity. It looks easier than it actually is. And from that point, people are like, the meatheads that are like, I could do that, pure curiosity. But then when they get in there, they realize there's more to it than just, grunting it out. So it's a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts. The other side of it is just the pure romance of, a sunset and a beautiful horse running with its mane, and hopefully you're, on its back or just watching it run. It's a cool lifestyle, and there's people out here that try to make it look cool, and they do a good job of that, and they're really good ambassadors.
Something that I've noticed with, I get kids that come in for lessons, and I have a lot of adults that come in for lessons, and a lot of the ones that come in, my demographic for my business is a lot more of the middle-aged person who's, has gone off and seek their fortune, worked like crazy and been in town and, had a job that for 20 years. And now they want to go out and finally have some fun and do something that they've always, dreamed of doing, or, they remember riding horse at grandpa's, or great grandpa's ranch somewhere, or whether it was a carnival or what, but they have that draw. And I've kind of more or less for myself have kind of come to the conclusion that I think when you grow up living in town and you're the sights and the sounds of artwork and concrete, and when you go into town to one of the big rodeos and like San Antonio or Houston or whatever, I think we just pop in and out for such a short little time that we don't. I think when you live in there and you see concrete and big buildings and art, and you're in awe of of things that are done and made and created, they're really, really cool. And I don't disagree, but I think you lose sight of the beauty of creation. I think that you can walk right by a leaf and forget that it does photosynthesis and how awesome it is and how much creation it is. And then what it says in creation just screams what, a lot of things, right? And it's no big coincidence that whenever you're, banging it out in the corporate world or whatever else, that every single one of them goes back to get reconnected. They go to nature, and, that he speaks to us through nature, that we start to see so much through nature. And and I see that draw because there's so much truth in creation. And so when they, you can not think about, you drive a car really fast and then, might get a little scared or whatever else, but man, it didn't take but getting within 10 feet of a big bucking bull to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and you ain't even getting close enough to touch it. And there's a danger in creation too that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah. No, that's definitely, I could see in college, I was a TA and in grad school actually. And so it was a very short time, but I had an office job, and I was college rodeoing. And so that was the main reason why I really was, motivated to stay and go to grad school, was because I had more college rodeo eligibility. And so I found myself, anyway, the only reason why I say that is because I could see why it would be easy for someone, with a 9-to-5 office job that could get out of touch with reality. But, there's also people in the Western industry that could get out of touch with reality. I mean, if you've been around it your whole life, there'll come a point where the bucking bull doesn't raise the hair on the back of your neck. And it might get mundane and monotonous, and you find yourself in a slump, and you've got to remind yourself. So I think that problems are problems, no matter what industry we're in. And there's some people that come to this industry for the right reason. Like you said, like it's been a dream and they're finally chasing it. There's other people that come to this. I had an intern who we thought was a shoo-in. We called him the People's Champ. That was his nickname while he was here for 2 weeks, because he was running from problems. When he got here, he realized that this wasn't going to solve them. And so he had kind of an internal battle going on that didn't really have anything to do with us. But essentially, he went back home. He missed his family, and those problems he was running away from followed him here. And it was emotional, mental, relationship stuff. It wasn't like he had in trouble with the law. But the point is like, at the end of the day, I think we all have, internal battles. Everybody's got issues. Everybody's got bills. Everybody's got problems. And I think that given the culture we're in this Western industry, we're able to maybe find the solution to those problems easier. But at the end of the day, I believe the only solution is our faith in God, specifically Jesus. And so that's been one of the things I've been, because like I said, you get to see that sunset, see that bucking bull, see them horses running every day. I mean, you can still have bad days when you're doing that.
Yeah, so. That's true. I mean, I think about that, I don't spend much time in town, and I spend my days on the back of a horse all the time. And I can lose sight of it also.
you know, I mean, just like to take today and tomorrow, for instance, where it's, you know, single digit weather here in Texas, there's going to be a lot of cowboys that wouldn't be mad if they had an office job, you know?
No.
So
it's all dreamy on Instagram until it's like one of these days coming up where you wish it's like you wouldn't do it and you'd be doing something different. Yeah.
Dr. Wheat Pasture cattle in Texas in January and February for a couple of years. And that'll make you find out if you really were meant to be a cowboy.
Yeah, that is for sure. That, and there ain't nothing to slow the wind down up there where you're at. Down here, it's a little bit different.
No, there sure isn't.
No, we got a few trees and some hills that, well, not big ones, but enough to kind of a little bit of a wind block. But
yes, sir.
So what? Curious as you start to age. Well, do you age?
I don't feel like I do at all. No? I really don't. Like, I feel young as ever. You know, I've had half a dozen surgeries, all rodeo related, and man, I feel great. I run every morning, and I feel like the Energizer Bunny, mentally more so than I was talking to somebody, and I was like, oh dang, I was driving, you know, before you were born, and it just made me realize that, like, oh snap. But on the other hand, I feel like I might be more immature than they are. So
I think I embody that, the immature part.
Yes, sir.
And if I question it, I just ask my wife, and then she tells me that, yeah, I am.
There you go.
Immature. Yeah. When you do you find yourself being more you still just as eager to get on the road? Are you still restless on for me, I'm eager to get home, and I like being home, but then at the same time I get here and I'm about 2 weeks, and boy, I get the itch to want to go somewhere for at least a weekend.
I mean, when I first started rodeoing, I realized pretty quick, I never wanted to say the words, I hate driving. And so because I'm being a rodeo cowboy, rodeos are elsewhere. And so you got to drive a lot. And so I've continuously told myself, I love driving. And eventually I believed it, and I've had a good attitude about it. And so when it's time to get on the road and go, I'm ready. Whether we're going to a rodeo or we're going to a booth or we're going to an appearance. Now, I will say I love what I do at home. So I don't get like, I don't mind being at home. I love my day-to-day grind of making videos, ranching, we're bucking stock. I love it. Absolutely. I love the people I get to go have dinner with in the evening. But when it comes time to hit the road, like, I'll gladly jump on some pavement and we'll go, you know, do work. And so I feel like I've got a pretty good balance of enjoying being at the house, enjoying being on the road.
Yeah. Do you, I've found over the years that keeping being kind of the business that I do too, with the training horses and stuff, that I've always had a desire to stay pretty diversified in things, whether it was doing like other, other events, or whether it was I was doing other breeds of horses, or that kind of deal. And as I did, I would narrow it down and got, more and more towards just reining horses, and then just a certain breed and whatever else. But I've always tinkered around at different things. Like I was in college. I even, cleaned windows at one of the malls, and just picked up an extra job of just going by and cleaning windows on my way into going to college. And I started like a t-shirt deal, and I'd make saddles, and I went to auctioneering school. Do you, and Jen, I guess mostly because there's just so many different things to intrigue me. I like learning about all kinds of stuff. I've noticed that kind of like even with what you do as ranching, but also rodeo, and you're still pretty diversified, whether you're mentoring other ones and teaching them how to bull ride, or you've got your business of merchandise, or you've got a business of rodeoing, or your stock, or how diversified are you? And is that you feel like you're pulled too much in different directions, or do you feel like you're kind of happiest when you're got fingers and everything?
The latter. I think that I'm pretty diverse. I've got some cows. The rodeo production side of things is not an income. It could be potentially in the future with JB, but right now it's more of an expense, which is completely okay with me. I realized that going into it. But
are you buying them, or are you breeding them, or are you just buying them?
We're breeding them. We're breeding them. Okay. Yeah, JB does a lot of trading on his own. He's got a bull place in Stephenville, and he's this bull he partnered with so and so, that bull he partnered with so and so. These 4 he owns on his own. These bucking cows over here are mine and his. He's got one. He's got all kinds of stuff going on. But yeah, so those two things I don't even necessarily count as income at all with ranching, just because there's some years that you don't make any money. But as far as business, I'm pretty with what I do on the internet. You can make money 3 different ways on the internet. You can sell a product, you can have a sponsor, or you can offer a service. So the more followers you have, the more opportunities you have for each, or the more you can charge. So we do all 3. We sell a product, we have sponsors. I've got 4. And then the third way, the service, you can create content for someone. We've got another service coming that we might, service type company that we might start. But essentially, the more followers you have, the more opportunity for income you have within each of those 3 revenue streams. Well, the way you get more followers is by bringing more value through content. Might be educational, motivational, or comedic, and we're in the latter. So we like to make people laugh, a little bit of educational sometimes, but mostly it's all about humor. And so I've got a team next to me in the room. There's 5 people in there. I got a 6th guy, my brother, who's contract labor, but they're all media. Like every day we're editing, we're filming, we're doing more editing, distribution. We want to put out 116 pieces of content a day across various platforms.
Holy smokes.
And the most important thing is and underneath that, I've got our goal on a whiteboard in there, and underneath that it says bring value. So don't post a post just to reach that 116 number. It needs to make somebody laugh. It needs to be interesting, inspirational, typically make somebody laugh. But the one thing I do tell them is don't put too much stock in the quality of the production. So, you don't need to overvalue if something's fuzzy, but it's hilarious, still post it. Right. So when I say quality, I don't necessarily mean the content quality, meaning like, was the joke funny? I mean, the production quality. Is it pixelated a little bit, or is it 720 rather than 1080p? So anyhow, I say all that. I kind of reverse engineered it, like how you make money. You can make money a variety of different ways, of which we do, but it all is based on us doing one thing. And that's when there's power in the revenue, in the different revenue streams, I think. So if you can make money doing one thing, but you make money 3 or 4 different ways, then all of a sudden you're going to ring the bell. For instance, a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, we went to, I got recruited to do some filming and do some content for Cheyenne Frontier Days. So Cheyenne brought us there, and we knocked this content out of the park. Well, they wanted me to post it, naturally, so more people would see it. And then there were some opportunities there where some of my sponsors benefited from that also. So in those videos, I'm also maybe wearing this All Sun shirt. So I am tapping into all three streams of income based on that one trip, and not any of the three. Cheyenne didn't care because, they're getting benefits from posting on my platforms with millions of followers. My sponsors didn't care because now it's an authentic spot for people to see that product in work. It's not like a in-your-face sale. And then me being the CEO of Rodeo Time, I got to pick my moments where my apparel line was viewed. So now all of a sudden, coming off of that Cheyenne trip, I'm going to make money three different ways. But essentially, I went there and did one thing. So that's when I think you're able to, and then what you do with that money is very important. That's where it gets important. So sales are not king, cash flow is king. But then like, what are you doing to build that in? So where is it most ROI positive? For me, it's my apparel line. So I'm putting money back into my company, into payroll, right now I've spent too much money on inventory, to head off the supply chain issues. But then what other investments outside of the company are you making to kind of hedge against, Father Time? So hedge against the dollar, essentially. So I think a lot of those things come into play. It's the kind of stuff I think about every day. And so I'll take a deep breath, and Lisa is my she's not in here right now, but she's my warehouse manager. We share an office, and it seems like I'm not going to pack a t-shirt out there on the warehouse floor, but like I'm thinking about this huge revolving wheel of putting out content. It's got to bring value. We get a new follower. All right, how do we push them through this funnel where they could potentially become a customer? I've got to satisfy this client, this sponsor. We've got this phone call for this appearance. We need to make a decision on this piece of equipment that's going to be six figures. Like there's all kinds of daily decisions that pile up, that as a business owner and operator, it's decision fatigue,
Did you think it would get this big?
Well, big is a relative term. For me, for me personally, it is big because knowing, just several years ago, I was living in my sister's office and I was working for her doctor in Yearlands. Her husband, my brother-in-law, he was the last full-time boss I had, greatest boss I've ever had, but I was Dr. Yearlands for $12 an hour. And so, which that was one of the happiest times in my life. And if I had to go back to that, it would not be the end of the world. So knowing that that's where I started, any step ahead of that financially is quote unquote big. So I don't know what big is by most people's standards. By my standards, coming from my sister's office, what we've got now, 16, 17 employees, that's big. But to be honest, I'm not sure where it's going. I think that's in the Lord's hand. That's in the market. Now it's in my hands too. I am the owner operator. Yeah. But what I mean by that is, I don't have monetary goals. I've got, production goals, content goals. I want to get the groundwork laid out, and then we build, and let the sales fall where they may, kind of deal. So, I'm not sure what the next step is. I just know that I'm going to work extremely hard to get there. And each time that I've kind of thought about where we might end up, we've surpassed it. So Lord willing, that continues to be the case. But even if it isn't, God is still good, and I'm still having a blast. So,
that's, it's kind of wild, but it is, it's kind of like the way that most cowboys work, period. I mean, and it still works, but you can have the greatest ideas, but if you don't have the work ethic, if you didn't have somebody I do this with the horses, and I say this to the horses quite a bit, is that, you can have a horse that has all the talent in the world, but if he hasn't got a work ethic, it's a waste. If he hasn't been taught, it's one thing that if he has the ability, he's a natural athlete, he's incredibly good and whatever else, but if he doesn't have a work ethic and he doesn't want to work for you, it's a waste. It doesn't matter. Right. And I see that in, and being, having young people work for you over the years, I've had other, assistants come in to work for me and stuff like that. And you see the ones come in and I had one thinking back about it, just one that come to mind right off the bat. But this young man was, he was absolutely probably the most gifted individual I've ever seen. We could go out in the afternoons and whack golf balls out by the arena, and that kid could place them 300 feet down the deal and put them within 6 feet of wherever he wanted. It was incredible. And he could get on a horse and he had great feel and he just was, and he was, he was infectious. He had a great personality and everything else. At everything. I mean, there was nothing that would hold him back except for himself. And he was never taught a work ethic. He never had that that instilled into him the pride in work and the pride in, it didn't matter if you do have, a 10,000 square foot house or you have a 2,000 square foot house. If it's kept well and kept nice, the 2,000 square foot house can be just as nice as the 10. If it's kept well and you work and you put your time into it and it's not falling down. But if it's 10,000 square foot and you can't keep up with it and it's falling down and cobwebs everywhere, it's kind of a waste in itself too. And I see like that in what I got out of what you're saying is like, it's kind of the same thing that we do, working as in this kind of industry is that you do it's learning that work ethic. It's you're just going to keep right on working, and and it's not that the Lord's will. I'm going to say, well, what's the old saying of it's better to pray for rain, but it's even better to pray for rain and plow. And it's preparing everything and pray for rain. It's God's will to provide the rain or not, but it doesn't mean you stop working and you don't.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I think that the work ethic is, if people haven't figured that out by now, that it's a prerequisite, if you're going to be successful at anything. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That a lot of those, life's greatest lessons are hidden in cliches. And that's what Trevor Brazil said. There is no secret to success. It's hard work. And he gets up early and he ropes every day. He ropes every day. He ropes every day. And perfect practice makes perfect, not just practice. So you're not just going through the motions, you're actively, and it's no different with what I'm doing. I'm not, and so that's where there's exercises I think a person can do that can help motivate. But if for somebody it's setting a goal, a specific monetary goal, that's fine. Something to help keep you accountable. That it gives you a deadline, which is deadlines help with that. I've got a vision, where I want to get. And so I do in sorts have a goal. It's just not attached to a monetary number, I guess. But I think that one thing I've learned is yes, hard work is important. Having a vision is important, but how you deal and interact with people is probably one of the most important things. That as a businessman, at least for sure, and it could be translated to even rodeo or team sports or whatever you want to talk about. But managing people, managing relationships, having empathy, like those sorts of traits are really important, And so I'm almost, culture in my company is one of, if not the most important things that I value as a leader. And so I've had to fire people that were cancer, but they were my best producers at the same time. They literally brought in the most money.
Isn't that a hard deal to do? I mean,
it's pretty tough. I'm not designed that way. I'm not designed to enjoy firing people. I've got friends that don't mind it, but it's not something. But yeah, two of the last three people I fired were they brought in income, but if you're cancer to the culture, it doesn't matter. And
in the long run, it won't work. Yeah.
The long-term ROI of that is negative. So anyway, that's another thing that I would have never dreamed would be as big a deal as it is. But I mean, let's say, if you're going to be a $100 million company, I don't know how many employees that is, but hundreds, you can't get there by yourself unless you sell a, software idea like an app. But if you're going to do it any other way than that, then you're going to have to be able to have relationships with people.
Yeah. Yeah. That I think that's, I just did an interview with a kid yesterday. His name's Clay Ulrey, and he's a header. And matter of fact, just last year he won the CPRA championship in heading.
Oh, nice.
Up in Canada. And so he just moved down here to Bernie and got married. And we were talking about, just some of that same stuff. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's cool. It kind of resonates, through all of them. I wonder how you, like with him, it's a little bit more, it's obvious that you got to have a team. In the rough stock industry, there seems to be a ton of camaraderie between all of the competitors in there. Is how big are the groups of like traveling partners and buddies and stuff that you guys run around with? You guys all as tight as what it seems, or is there groups or what?
Well, PRCA rules, you can only buddy with up to 4 people. So 4 people can be in a buddy group. So me and 3 others. If you're entered in multiple events, it can only be 1 other person. So going down the road, as far as consistently rodeo after rodeo, you're going to have up to 4 people in a vehicle, but you're going to interrupt and be in the same place. I mean, like you might see another buddy if you go to 40 rodeos over a span of 6 weeks, 8 weeks in the summertime over a 4th of July run, you might see some of the same guys at 9 of them or more, you know what I mean? Or 14 of them. And
I didn't know that there was a buddy group rule.
Yeah. You can't just buddy with like 8 people. You can't buddy with, you know what I mean? Cause then all of a sudden you're just some 8 guys could get together and cause you can they're only going to put so many people in the perf.
Oh, I get it. Oh,
yeah. So they're not going to, they wouldn't let 6 guys buddy together because that'd be more, that'd be half the perf is, one person gets to determine. So yeah, there's a little bit of rules and regulations as far as that goes, as far as who you actually buddy with. But outside of that, I mean, you're going to jump in and catch rides. It's really easy for us to catch rides with people, and Tommies do it too. But roughies, it's way easier. We're not dragging a trailer. It's pretty easy for us to whip into the airport, pick up this guy, drop off that guy. So, over the years, I've had 3, 4, 5 different guys that I can, half a dozen now that I'm thinking about it, that I consistently rodeoed with. And then there's another dozen or so guys that I would go to a rodeo, we'd go on a weekend run together. We'd go over here. And it's the same kind of deal as what we were talking about earlier. It just depends on what kind of person you want to be. That's the kind of rodeo cowboy you need to surround yourself with. Because it's easy to say, well, this is the kind of rodeo cowboy I want to be. I want to ride broncs like this guy. I want to ride bulls like this guy. But is he also the kind of man you want to be? And so that's when you really need to, because you spend way more time with them on that personal level than you do the professional rodeo cowboy level. You're going to be at the rodeo for 2 hours, but you might be in the car with them for 16 on the way there. And, you might be with them for weeks, but so it's important to, same thing with anything in life, the kind of people you surround yourself with, they're going to be a direct reflection of what your personality looks like at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, but the camaraderie there is it's kind of like what I was talking about with my old man. Like there's times when you're down and your rodeo and your buddies pick you up, and then vice versa, you pick them up. And, that's why their attitude is so important. If they're a negative, pessimistic person, it's going to be detrimental to your rodeoing, because when you have a bad day, which in rodeo you inevitably will, it's going to affect your rebound, because the next bull or bronc, they're not going to know nor care that you are having a bad day. So how you recover from that previous failure is going to be huge. Yeah. That's why rodeo is 90% mental and the rest is in your head.
When you, I noticed that one of the things that you did with Donnie and on the series, the TV show, at the end, whenever he rode at the little rodeo where he bucked one out, and you, when he came back, and you, like, something I do with all my non-pros is that when they come out of the pen, their attitude out of the pen is usually when they come out is what they're going to carry back in the next time they go in to compete. And when he came out, you were like, pumped him up a bunch, and I know he wanted to beat himself up. He wanted to be, which is what we all want to do, because we want to, he wanted to come out of there, looking like a superstar on his first time out. But, you came in and, built him up and encouraged him and really supported him. And I do that with my non-pros when they want to beat themselves up and stuff, because I know that the attitude and the feeling that they come out of there with is what they're going to take back into the pen the next time that they go to compete.
You bet.
Is that something you intentionally do with them? I noticed you do that not just whenever at that point, but every time he got off in the pen at the house on the beaches.
When you're rodeoing, anything you're doing in life, anything worth having is gonna take time. And specifically bronc riding, having competed in all 4 rough stock events, and I include bullfighting in that, bronc riding is by far the hardest one to learn and get good at. Yeah. And so that the pathway to get to where you can feel like you are making a difference on a bronc is very long. And so you have to celebrate those small wins early on. Otherwise, you'll just be super discouraged. Now, there's another side of that coin where someone can operate under delusion and think that they're the greatest of all time when they're really not. Yeah. And that's not helpful, Mm-hmm. And so I don't want to give someone a false, you want to celebrate the wins. And then, here's the obvious things we need to work on. When you interact with those kind of people that are operating under that delusion, one thing we talk about is like when that gate opens in the rodeo arena, that is a very pure moment. And that it's baptism by fire, and it will burn away any sort of false confidence that you have. And when that moment happens, if you're not ready, and you either need to have an excuse or you need to be willing to have a slice of humble pie, because if you're not ready, the bull or horse is going to show that to everyone. And so that's what I told these guys just the other day. I said, I don't care how much you work, like you've got to work a certain amount. Otherwise, I'm not going to let you get on. Like, I'm not going to let people be dangerous out here. But essentially, like, I've got jump kickers. And so they're not getting on, PBR finals quality bulls every single time. The level of the danger factor isn't as high as it would be in some practice pens. But I told them, I said, so I do want you to work at it. Otherwise, I'm not going to let you get on. But as far as like how hard you work, that's up to you. And when we're going to find out how hard you work when we open the gate. Yeah. So, you can say whatever you want to me. You can post whatever you want on the internet, but that moment right there, And that's what, that's kind of the difference, like with rodeo and business, that's a big difference because people can fake it in business. You can fake if you're actually succeeding in business because people don't look at your bank account. But with rodeo, like you come Friday night when the gate opens, like there ain't no faking it.
No. I like too that I probably a lot that watch it don't see the nuances or the small parts of it just because it takes so much of a trained eye to see when they're in timing and when they're not. And, when he starts to really get his position on and know where he's at on the horse. But there was a big improvement on it. Like it was really fun to watch, and to see that and really to see somebody, that it's just, you're not running a school, right? That is, a 2-week school, you're pushing them in and shoving them out until you're good and get a little certificate and go on your way. But that you're actually putting the time and effort. I really see that it's it's really cool to see someone using, creation to disciple in the way that we're supposed to, like investing into other people and giving them the opportunity to work themselves through it. It's not something that's just given to them. And there is so few places in really in society anymore, period, that really, that does give, that does give you an opportunity that's going to pull the truth out of it, whether you like it or not. There's no faking it in there. Even the layman who hasn't got a clue what's going on knows when the whistles goes and knows what, the look of, I got this on my face, or I'm, scared to death. And
right.
You just don't see that anywhere else. I'm trying to think of where else you would see that in the world of competition, where you can fake quite a few things for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of, think about basketball. As much as I love watching basketball, but when it comes time to shoot one, you'd be able to tell pretty easy that I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. So, it's the same thing in rodeo. So, it's definitely something that I'm passionate about as far and get excited about teaching a younger generation. It's something that I'd be doing with or without cameras. We do have buckouts where there are no cameras. And so that's something I enjoy doing, and Lord willing, I'll get to continue to do that. And right now it's just an awesome exchange where, I'm able to have these young people work for me, and then also, they get to pursue their dream. And at the end of the day, I believe they are getting the better end of the deal. I really do. I don't say that, arrogantly. I say it because, when they leave here, they're going to have experiences, they're going to have lessons, they're going to have wisdom that they're going to take with them for the rest of their life. They will remember some of these, and the guys that, and the guys that choose to do this as a profession and 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, they're still in this industry. This is their foundation that career was built on. Me, however, when they leave here, I will have to hire someone to do the job they're doing. And so now the job they're doing here is impactful and it's helping my career. But but the point is like, when they leave, they get to take with them what I gave them. And I chuckle about that when you said that, because I know I'm 52 years old, and I remember being that, man, I got it like still etched in my memory of, rolling up to Elgin to get on that, Brindle bull. I remember what she looked. I remember I was wearing red high top tennis shoes, cruising in with playing, a little bit of AC/DC and, getting ready to go ride my first bull. And I still remember that. That's, 30 some odd years ago. Yep. And I chuckle at that because, it's those big, grand ideas and things that you got to do and accomplish that you'll be able to talk about for the rest of your life. And they're impactful. They're things that you get to do that, very well may make a mark on somebody,
for the rest of their lives. That it was something that, it was either a highlight, and it could have been just a highlight, but it also could be something that changed the path and, got them to thinking about a different way, or, inspired them to go and, put that work and effort into whatever it else is they're going to do down the road.
Yes, sir.
No, those things are really cool. It's impactful. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, Dale, it sure was a nice conversation. I enjoyed
yes,
it.
Sir.
Yeah. Those are, you got some great principles on business and great principles on life. And I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching you with the kids and stuff, and watching you introduce. I think probably more than anything, period, I really enjoy the fact of seeing somebody else promote, the rural, way of life, and reintroducing the cowboy to, a whole new generation. That there's something that's so cool about this business. There's something that's so cool about creation. And nowadays, we could use quite a bit of dose of truth.
Yes, sir.
That there's never too much of it. And it's pretty much kind of like getting on that bull, kind of undeniable. Truth is not something that you can look at and it's subjective, and I can see my truth, or you can see your truth, and we can talk about what what's a variable in between. But there's hardline truth. Gravity is truth, and rain falls when it wants to, and all kinds of other stuff. And there's there's a lot of truth in creation, and I think that's one of the things that is really cool about the cowboy way of life, is that our lives are spent a lot of time around creation. We're really lucky enough to be able to be in that and get to see truth quite often. Yes, sir. Yeah, I think I think it's a misconception. A lot of people, secular humanism says that truth is relative, and what's true for you is true for you, but what's true for me is true for me. And I don't believe that to be true, because what if my truth says your truth is a lie? Well, one of us is wrong, and so just logically that they just both can't be true. I can't say gravity doesn't exist and you say it does exist. One of us is wrong. Yeah. And, because you're true. Anyway, whatever. We're getting into logic. But the point is there is one truth. And I think that, I would love for people to take time to consider my truth, which is God first, people second, myself third. And Lord willing, my life reflects that. Mark 12 is where Jesus said that's the most important commandment. So anyhow, hopefully my life reflects that. And then, as a secondary benefit, hopefully, we bring people to this industry and are ambassadors of it, as well as the country. But most importantly is my faith. So, no, I appreciate you having me, and stay in touch. We'll do it again sometime. You bet. Thanks a bunch, man. Yes, sir. What is it? Pow, pow. On to the next one. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. You've been listening to the Go Time Podcast with Todd Martin. If you'd like to know more about the Go Time Podcast, Todd Martin, or Todd Martin Performance Courses, you can visit us at toddmartin.net, N-E-T. We're going to be putting up some merchandise on there too for the podcast. And also, please, if you get the time and you like it, share with a friend. Give us a like and a review. I guess all that stuff kind of really helps and helps us get it out there to more people to be able to enjoy the podcast. So until next time, go time.